Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Bootser. Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
Let the whole world hear. Raise your fists, 'cause you're still here. Happy birthday, Renee. We're gonna shout it loud today. You've walked every mile, given a smile, every victory. Happy birthday, Renee. Uncensored keeps leading the way. Here's to another year of living free, another year of family. Oh, another year of fans and friends. Happy birthday, Renee.
So we got there. We did the intro and we did my foreword on the Black Hand, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do chapter 1. We're going to knock them down chapter by chapter, and we got a few coming. So this is what you guys wanted. This is what I'll do. Views don't matter, although I'd like to have like tens of thousands of views. It is what it is, and I committed to completing this book, and I will. But before I go any further, I want to remind you all that there's a number of ways to support the channel. The support is really the life's blood of this channel. We can't function without your viewership. So that said, be sure to watch the video in its entirety. If you're busy, just let it run and then come back and watch it later. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, hype the video, folks. Hype, hype, hype. That really promotes us in the algorithm. And of course, there are memberships. You can become a member. There's a variety of different levels. There's our store, www.realreneenriquez.com, and there's Buy the Team a Cup of Coffee. But most importantly, watch the video in its entirety. That sets a bunch of stats for us, and we truly appreciate it. So, if you're a first-time viewer and you know nothing about this series, this is the making of the Black Hand. This is actually the Black Hand being narrated by me. It's been narrated before. Other people have read the book, but I'm the guy. So I figure I should read my own book, right? And then I'll tell you little anecdotes along the way. So I'm going to stop it as I'm reading, and I'll bust in with little anecdotes and stories and how I was feeling at the time. Because this brings back a lot of memories. And I haven't read the book in years and years and years. But for those of you who don't know, we're reading The Black Hand today. The Black Hand, the bloody rise and redemption of a Mexican mob killer, Rene Enriquez. That is me. Obviously, I'm no longer a mobster anymore, but this detailed my life. I was a member for about 17 years and some months, right? And then I dropped out. I defected. Those of you who don't know the backstory, you can find it on this channel everywhere. I talk about it all the time. I don't hide the fact that I dropped out, that I wanted protective custody, and I testified against the organization. In fact, I still have multiple relationships with law enforcement, and I think that'll be forever. My testimony days might be over, but my relationships and friendships with law enforcement are now part of my life. But with that said, let's get to the book. We're going to run the video now. Here we go. Hey, folks. My name is Rene Enriquez, and you are watching Uncensored. Well, we're back at it with the unprecedented narration of The Black Hand. This book right here. For those just watching, I'm going to read chapter 1. We're going to do a 1 chapter per video. And I'm going to add some anecdotes as well. I'm going to add some personal stories to this as well. Like when I was doing the introduction, I added a story, a bit of a annotation. But we're going to try to do that for each chapter here. Kind of like the video series we're doing, Being Made. That video series was directly where we took information and put it into the book, as well as hundreds of phone calls and, hundreds of hours of interviews and recordings. It took a lot to make this book. People think that writing a manuscript is easy, and it's not. I just did notes. I wrote what I wrote, and Chris Blatchford put it together. Chris Blatchford is the architect behind this book, and his name is on the byline. People often think that I wrote it, and I did not write this book. I wrote the foreword, I wrote notes, I did interviews, I recorded for it multiple times. So just so you understand the process for writing a book, it's not easy. It is not easy. You may have a concept, and my suggestion to everybody, because I believe everybody has a story in them. Everybody has an interesting story. Something in their life is specific to many people that they can identify with, right? Whether it's loss, whether it's love, whether it's romance, whether it's economics, whether it's success or failure, addiction or sobriety. Everybody has a story, and it's articulating that story. And writing is no more than speaking, but you're speaking with a pen or a computer or a typewriter. And that's really what it is. You're articulating yourself. And people often second guess because it's not first nature to write. It's first nature to speak, right? That's natural to all of us. It's a gift that we all have, the gift of expression, right? So I encourage those people, those budding authors out there, the people that believe they have an interesting story, put it to paper. And it's easy. You can do it through recording. Just record yourself, collecting your memories. Do not edit yourself, and start writing. Start recording those thoughts and formulating your book, and then use one of the many AI softwares that exist to transcribe your words into print. Then you start structuring your book. You do your first write, your first draft, your rewrite. Yeah, I'm going to say right now, I get a lot of requests for people who are budding authors who want to become authors. It's not easy. I'll say that flat out. A story could be magnificent, but it has to be marketable, right? And if you're going to a traditional publishing house, which is very difficult to do because you need an agent, you have to have a manuscript, you have to write a book proposal. There's just this protocol that has to be followed. A lot of people are just going to self-publishing. Now, Kindle and Amazon and eBay, they'll all print your books. There's a bunch of places out there that'll print your books, but never pay to have your book printed. That's the mark of the amateur. They pay you to write. Don't pay. That's vanity publishing. If you see anybody that's like, I wrote a book, but I paid to get it published, that's the caveat. You know, I have never paid to have any of my publications printed. I get paid for my books, and that's the way authors write. And there are a variety of different contracts you can do on book writing, but that's just a tip. It's not as easy as it seems. It's a shark world out there in the literary field, and not everybody's going to get published. So here we go. We're going to take off with this right now, and then, until you finalize it. So that's a little tip on writing. And I hate writing too. I hate writing and I hate reading out loud. I love to read, but I hate reading out loud. So here's call to action, folks. Many ways to support the channel, right? We have www.realreneenriquez.com where we sell autographed copies of this book, signed by me. We do it once a month. For those people who have made orders, we do it about once a month. I'll sign books, ship them to my editor. My editor will get them shipped out to you. For anybody who's had complications in the past with orders, simply drop an email to Rene Enriquez Uncensored at proton.me, and I'll address that issue. Believe me, this isn't about, hustling anybody. If you pay for something, you will receive it. But give me the opportunity to resolve that issue before, canceling your order or whatever. I mean, if you decide you don't want it, then okay, cancel, no problem. But believe me, we strive to address our support system, which is all the viewers, right? There's another way to support the channel. You can watch the videos in their entirety. That's the simplest way, right? I'm not asking you guys for money. I'm asking you guys for time. You guys invest in me every day by watching the video, so I invest in you by making videos for you every day, even on the weekend when the views are so horrible. But I still continue to put out content because I know we have weekend warriors out there. So with that said, I am going to read off the first chapter here in this book, and we're going to do it sequentially. We're not going to jump around. We're going to do it sequentially. Again, I hate reading out loud. I think I sound like a robot. But here we go. We're going to read the book. Chapter 1, Blood In, Blood Out. He had a lot of blood on his hands, from the streets and from behind bars. Now he sat in Los Angeles Superior Court waiting for Judge Florence Marie Cooper to set a trial date. He faced 2 first-degree murder charges and 2 attempted murder charges. If convicted, the death penalty was a definite possibility, at the very least, life in prison, and he didn't seem to care. In fact, as a nearby television news camera videotaped the proceedings, 29-year-old Rene Enriquez, better known in the gang-infested streets of Southern California as Boxer, calmly turned towards the camera lens and softly mouthed the words, lies, and broke into shoulder-shaking laughter. He was strikingly handsome, with a personality that demanded attention, a certain presence that commanded respect, thick jet black hair, combed back, a full mustache turned down at the edges, a sharp, pointed nose, and high cheekbones betraying his Mexican Aztec roots. His wire-rimmed glasses surrounded friendly eyes that instantly could turn cold and threatening. He was 5'8", but he carried himself like a man a half foot taller. Trim, athletic. I am no longer trim and athletic. He looked good in short-sleeved jailhouse blues. If not for the tattoos that marked both sides of his neck, dotted his hands, and sleeved his forearms, he could easily have put on an expensive suit and passed for one of the slick courthouse lawyers who make a living representing guys just like him, gangsters. While on parole a year and a half earlier, he had ordered the death of a young woman for stealing drugs from him, and several days later, put 5 .357 Magnum bullets into the head of errant mobster who had shown cowardice. Then, while awaiting trial, he did 2 other bloody hits inside the Los Angeles County Jail, stabbing rival mobsters so many times there was only a stroke of fate that kept them from making an early trip to the grave. In truth, authorities believed he had participated in at least 10 murders and had personal knowledge of 7 times that many. Boxer Enriquez was a full-fledged member of the ruthless Mexican Mafia, known as La M, a regular modern-day murder incorporated. And he was proud of it. M, pronounced me, is the Spanish phonetic pronunciation of the letter M for Mafia. He has the M tattooed on his left hand. The word emero, also for M, appears on his left bicep. A butterfly or mariposa, also signifying the letter M, is on his neck. And an actual life-size blackhand tattoo is over his heart, with a small M emblazoned in the middle of the palm. The E on each side lightened in color to give prominence to the letter M. The M has a saying that when the hand touches you, you go to work. That means murder, maiming, mayhem, extortion, drug dealing, robbing, burglarizing, kidnapping, or anything else the Mexican Mafia brothers want done, and Boxer had done them all. He moved his chair back and forth on its hind legs and stared at Judge Cooper as she set the murder trial date for January 1st, 1993. This was no sweat. He stood up straight, already cuffed and waist chained and leg chained, and was escorted out of the courtroom under heavy guard. That was the way he would go anywhere outside of his cell for the rest of his life. There was the sound of chains clanging as he walked, as he turned and nonchalantly waved as he neared the prisoner's exit door at the side of the courtroom. There would be no bail. Again, he didn't seem to mind. Already, Boxer had spent 1/3 of his young life locked up. He was reasonably comfortable in prison. Besides, he was a feared killer. Even in a world of killers, he knew he would never hesitate. Others would. He was a killer's killer, and was proud of it, a warrior. He also knew that the Mexican Mafia controlled not only the county jail, but the largest inmate population in the world, and all the prison rackets, including drug dealings, extortion, and gambling. The California Department of Corrections had 160,000 inmates, and Laema used murder and fear to keep them in line. Yeah, he would be just fine. By his own admission, it was a twisted existence, but he was smart and confident. He knew he not only looked like a gangster, he was one. And after all, it was a life that he had bargained for, and there was only one acceptable way out. He'd taken an oath with his Emmett brothers, blood in, blood out. In other words, the only way out of the Mafia was in a pine box. That was the cardinal rule in this deadly game he played, and he felt he was a player at the top of his game. And besides, the Mexican Mafia had a Spanish word to describe the position of its members, rifamos, translation, we rule, we control, we reign. The line that divided life in prison and life in the outside world seemed blurred. Boxer's criminal career was indicative of the lifestyle of the Mexican Mafia. which did outrageous crimes with impunity, not caring if brothers got caught or went to prison. They adapted, becoming creatures of the penal system and the cruel streets of the underworld. They had no regard for human life and still don't. Rene Enriquez, aka Boxer, enjoyed being one of them. And to more completely understand what Boxer had become, it's important to first know the bloody history of the organization that sprawled and shaped him. So that is, yeah, you know what? I got so wrapped up into that. I didn't even pause for commentary. I'm thinking about it like the shoulder shaking laughter in court. Everybody's seen that clip, right? And that was me at the time. I was actually telling a joke to somebody in the audience, and I turned to them when they were reading up the charges. I said, "Lies, lies. It's all lies," and we both started laughing. But Chris Blatchford had the camera zooming on me and thought I was laughing about it. I really was. I really was. No matter how you slice it, I'm facing a double murder charge in Los Angeles, and I'm in court laughing. So it's a real reflection of who I was at the time, and I'm so happy that I'm not that guy anymore. But let's continue this because I've rambled on enough. Chapter 1. Man, it sounds exciting. I think about it, right? I think about those words that were generated by Chris, and not just Chris, but many others who had done stories on me, documentaries. And I never really realized that they saw me as that brutal person, right? That's what I strove for. I geared towards that. I pushed my whole life towards it. In fact, I had the death row attitude. I wanted to go to death row. So to get there and become a cardenal, to be executed for the organization would kind of put me on a martyr status, right? There are a couple cardenales that actually died for the organization, and they had become martyrs for the organization. I think at that time, the only thing in my mind was that you're going to remember my name. You're going to remember who I was. And I was Boxer from the Mexican Mafia. I proudly embraced that. I was proud to be a cardenal. I was proud to have put in work for the organization and to rep all the cardenales. And I did. I did so well. But in any organization, there's politics and there's fatigue, right? Fatigue. That's what I call it, fatigue. They get fatigued of you, and you get fatigued of them. In other words, they get tired of you. And I had my fill of my politics. As I'm sure they had their fill of mine. But that's later in the story. With that said, that concludes chapter 1. I know it was brief. Some of these chapters are brief, but we're not going to jump in other chapters. 1 chapter per episode, folks. So don't get at me with longer content. This, put subtitles, that. You can initiate subtitles yourself in the YouTube settings, and it will translate what I say into caption. So you can do that yourself. And long form, the book is what it is, and we are not going to cut into mid-chapter or do that. We're just not going to do that with this reading. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed this first chapter of the book. We're going to push on to chapter 2. Okay, here's a caveat that I want everybody to know. Each of these chapters are read from a specific book. We're putting these books aside. We're going to serialize them, number them for each chapter, each reading, and then we're going to auction them off. So I believe the book is comprised of 38 or 43 chapters. So we'll have those issues of the book up for sale soon. We'll wait until we complete the series. And I'm thinking the number 13, volume 13 and volume 14, those are going to go to the highest bidders. Because there's going to be a bunch of Sureños that want it, a bunch of Norteños that want it, right? But yeah, they're all going to be for sale. It'll be at, we'll put them up for auction on the site or something like that. We'll figure out how to do it. But these are going to be made available. And there'll be a little printing in there for me. This I read from this book, chapter 1. I'll sign it to the person who wins the bid. And I think they'll become collector's pieces. The book in and of itself is a classic. We know that already. And I'm humbled by the success of the book. I'm truly humbled, you guys. Truly humbled. You guys want me to read it, that you guys still buy it, that who would have thunk? Yeah, thunk. I said that. I'm being ghetto right now. Who would have thunk that this book would be selling 18 years later? book has been in publication that long, 2008, 2018. No, 16 years later. 16 years later, the book is still selling. It's still selling. You can go to any bookstore and find it there, but you only get autographed copies here. All right, folks, with that said, thank you for your attention span. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for your support in the channel. Peace out, folks.
This is Rene Enriquez.